There are moments in history when silence speaks louder than gunfire. Moments when a single act of restraint, a quiet defiance, leaves an echo that no battle trumpet could ever match. It is in such moments that the soul of a soldier is tested. Not by how fiercely he fights, but by how firmly he stands when the order is wrong. This is the untold account of one such man. A recruit so new that the dust of training still clung to his boots, yet whose courage would leave seasoned officers speechless. The year was not recorded in any chronicle, nor the battle named. It was a border conflict, one of those long-forgotten wars fought in the margins of empires, the kind of place where maps were redrawn with mud and blood, and the wind carried the scent of burnt fuel and rain-soaked iron. The regiment stationed there was known simply as the 12th Iron Division, a name that once commanded fear, but by this time whispered something else. Corruption had begun to creep through its ranks. The division's commanding captain, Captain Varencourt, was a man both feared and obeyed. Decorated in his youth, he had since traded discipline for dominance. His uniform gleamed brighter than his conscience, and his men followed him more out of fear than respect. Court's reputation was known across the frontier. He was ruthless with subordinates, lavish with punishment and merciless with dissent. To defy him was to vanish, either reassigned to the most hopeless of posts or worse found missing after a night patrol. Into this shadowed command arrived a new recruit, Elias Wren, barely 20, quiet, deliberate, and unremarkable, at least to the untrained eye. He carried himself with a restraint uncommon among soldiers of his age. His speech was precise, his movements efficient. He neither sought attention nor avoided it. What none could see was that beneath that calm surface burned an iron conviction, that the purpose of a soldier was not to serve a man's ego, but a code higher than any order. On the morning it happened, the camp stirred earlier than usual. A battlefield inspection had been announced. Captain Court himself would oversee the troops before a visiting general arrived. Inspections under Court were no mere formality. They were theater, a performance of authority. Every uniform had to be spotless, every weapon gleaming, not for combat readiness, but to reflect the captain's own obsession with image. Elias stood in formation among 200 men. The dawn air was thick with tension. Boots thudded into position, rifles were adjusted, breath was held, and then he came. Captain Court marched between the lines, his polished boots slicing through puddles like blades. Behind him, a small entourage of aides and officers took notes on any perceived imperfection. Discipline, Court barked, is not built on courage. It's built on fear of failure. Fear keeps you sharp. Fear keeps you alive. The words echoed coldly across the ranks. Elias did not move. His face was stone, his eyes forward. Court stopped before a young corporal who had failed to polish his insignia properly. Without warning, the captain struck him across the face with his gloves, a sharp, calculated blow that cracked the silence. The corporal did not react. Blood welled at his lip. "Failure," Court said softly, "is contagious." He continued down the line, his eyes scanning for the next target. When he reached Elias, something in the recruit's composure made him pause. The man was motionless, yet there was something in his stillness, not defiance but clarity. A sense of someone unafraid. Court narrowed his eyes. "Name?" "Recruit Elias Wren, sir." "New blood," Court muttered. "Let's see if you bleed like the rest." He inspected Elias's rifle, immaculate. His uniform flawless. No mistake to exploit, no flaw to punish. But Court was not a man who accepted perfection when he had already decided to humiliate someone. Behind the rows of soldiers, a small, battered civilian cart stood near the supply tents. Inside were local farmers detained earlier that morning, accused of withholding information from the division. No charges had been proven. No orders had been issued for interrogation. But Court, in his arrogance, sought to demonstrate what he called decisive leadership. He turned to Elias. "Recruit Wren, step forward." Elias obeyed. Boots crunching on gravel, he halted before the captain. "Take that rifle," Court ordered, gesturing toward the civilians. "You will demonstrate obedience." "Fire one round through that cart. Consider it a warning shot." The order hung in the air, vile, unmistakable. The battalion froze. The wind died. Even the clatter of gear seemed to halt mid-breath. Elias looked from the captain to the cart, the terrified faces within, the trembling hands clutching one another. He understood at once. This was not about obedience. It was about submission. Every soldier knows the difference between a lawful order and a corrupt one. And in that instant, Elias Wren faced a choice that would define not only his life, but the conscience of every man watching. He could obey and become complicit. Or he could refuse and be destroyed. Cor's voice sliced through the stillness. "I gave you an order, recruit." Elias's reply came low and calm. "Sir, that order violates Code of Conduct Section 12, Paragraph 3. A flicker of disbelief crossed Cor's face. "Then anger. You question me." "No, sir," Elias said evenly. "I'm refusing to carry out an unlawful command." Gasps rippled through the ranks. A recruit, defying a captain. Cor stepped closer, face inches from Elias's. "You think your training manual will save you? You think your conscience outranks me?" Elias didn't move. His voice stayed steady. "Sir, I serve the uniform, not the man wearing it." For a heartbeat, time stopped. Two wills, one forged in power, the other in principle, locked like drawn blades. Cor's jaw twitched. "Very well. If you won't obey, you'll serve as the example." He turned sharply to his aides. "Bring the corporal. He'll demonstrate what obedience looks like." But before the aides could move, Elias spoke again quietly but with precision. "Sir, you would punish a man for refusing to commit an illegal act in front of your entire division. What message will that send when the general arrives?" Cor froze. His fury flickered with the first spark of fear. Because Elias was right. This inspection was public. The general was scheduled to arrive within the hour. Every soldier, every officer would bear witness to what followed. Still, Cor's pride would not yield. He raised his voice, barking, "Guards! Detain this man!" Two soldiers moved hesitantly toward Elias. Their faces were pale. They didn't want this. And then, the moment that would be remembered for generations, Elias did something no one expected. He didn't resist. He simply turned, saluted the flag behind them, a silent, deliberate gesture of loyalty to the ideal, not the man. And in that motion, the entire field seemed to breathe again. The power shifted, not through force, but through clarity. Cor's fury faltered, because deep down, he knew. He had already lost. The inspection would never proceed as he planned. His authority had cracked not through rebellion, but through integrity, and every eye on that field saw it. The silence that followed was not fear. It was revelation. The recruits, the corporals, the seasoned sergeants, all stood unmoving, as if afraid to disturb the weight of what they had just witnessed. A captain had barked an order. A recruit had refused. And somehow the entire battalion had taken the recruit's side, without a single word.